For years, we've all been hearing about this amazing future of self-driving cars, right? A world with no more traffic jams, no more accidents. But if you look outside, that future seems to be kind of stuck in the slow lane. And the reason why? Well, it's a lot more complex, and frankly, a lot more human than you'd think.
I mean, it's the question on everyone's mind, isn't it? The tech seems to be getting more and more incredible every single day. So where are all the robo-taxis and automated cars we were promised were just around the corner?
And here's the real kicker. The biggest hurdles, they're not in the software. They're not in the sensors. Nope. They're in our laws, in our society, and, yeah, in our own heads. The real challenge, it turns out, isn't teaching a car to navigate the road. It's getting it to navigate us.
So, in this explainer, we're going to break down these human roadblocks. We'll start with what's called the driverless dilemma. Then we'll dive into the legal mess, tackle the huge issue of public trust, see why everyone needs to be speaking the same language, and finally, we'll look at the road ahead.
First up, the driverless dilemma. And this is all about unpacking the hot potatoes of autonomous driving. And trust me, it's not as tasty as it sounds. You know what a hot potato is, right? These are the really politically sensitive issues that nobody wants to get stuck holding. We're talking about the difficult, uncomfortable truths about risk and safety that just get passed from the car makers to the politicians to the public because they're just too hot for any one group to handle on their own.
And here we get to the absolute heart of it. The fundamental problem is that driving will never, ever be 100% perfectly safe. There's always going to be some small, unavoidable leftover risk on the road. And while we humans kind of accept that every time we get behind the wheel, our laws for machines, well, they really struggle with that messy reality.
And that messy reality crashes right into our second section, rewriting the rules of the road. We're going to use the German legal system here as a perfect case study to see just how much old laws are clashing with brand new technology.
Okay, check this out, because this slide shows a massive contradiction. On the left, you've got the current law for self-driving cars, and it demands absolute perfection, no danger to life or limb, 0. But on the right, the law for human drivers accepts reality, saying some risks are just unavoidable. You see the problem? You literally can't have it both ways. This legal paralysis is a huge roadblock.
This paralysis leads to something the Germans call Auslegungskonflikte, or interpretation conflicts. But let's just break that down. It's basically the impossible choices the car's programming has to make every single second on the road, where it's forced to weigh competing values against each other with no clear legal guidance on what's right.
And this right here is what those trade-offs look like in the real world. Think about it. Should the car follow a traffic rule to the letter, even if it's actually safer to bend it a little? What about your personal data? Should the car protect it at all costs or share it to make all cars safer? These aren't just technical glitches. They're deep ethical and legal dilemmas that we have to answer.
So how in the world do we fix this legal jam? Well, experts are pointing to a pretty clear 3-step path. First, the laws have to explicitly say that making these risk trade-offs is okay. Second, we need legally defined traffic safety as a legitimate interest, one that can sometimes be more important than data privacy. And third, we need totally new insurance models for those situations where things go wrong because of unavoidable knowledge gaps.
But, even if we got all the laws perfect tomorrow, we'd still face another huge challenge. Which brings us right to Section 3, the quest for trust. This is all about moving from just managing risk to actually getting the public to accept this stuff.
This quote, wow, it really nails it. Trust is this incredibly valuable but also incredibly fragile resource. We've already seen trust in this tech declining in the US, and it shows that one rash action, one big failure that's poorly explained, can set the whole field back for years. You can't just build the technology, you have to build people's confidence in it.
And building that confidence, well, it can't happen in some secret lab. The recommendations are super clear. We need open forums where everyone has a voice, not just the car companies. We need transparent pilot projects where people can see what's happening. We need to actually research what makes people feel safe. And maybe most important of all, we have to talk about all of this in simple, clear, understandable language. And that whole idea of clear communication, it leads us perfectly into our fourth section, building a common language. Because right now, one of the biggest dangers is that all the key players, the engineers, the regulators, the public, are all just talking right past each other.
Just think about it for a second.
How can an engineer build a safe car if their definition of safety is totally different from a regulator's definition, which is also completely different from what you or I think of as safe? Without a shared dictionary for these huge concepts like risk and acceptance, we're basically building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand.
You can actually see this confusion right in the standards themselves. On one hand, you've got these existing technical standards, and they're all about nuts and bolts functional safety. But on the other hand, you have these new emerging value-based standards that are trying to bake ethics and societal values right into the car's design. The critical job now is to make sure these two sets of rules can actually talk to each other and work together.
Okay, so that brings us to our final section, the road ahead. We've walked through the legal tangles, the crisis of trust, the communication breakdown. So, how do we actually chart a course out of this whole mess?
Well, it really all boils down to taking action in the three key areas we've just talked about. We need bold legal reform to give us clarity on risk, we need proactive public engagement to build that crucial trust, and we need serious technical standardization so that everyone is speaking the same language of safety.
And maybe this is the most important piece of the puzzle, because the solution isn't just for today. This quote points to a fundamental shift we need to make. The engineers of the future can't just be amazing coders. They have to be trained to see and help solve these big societal conflicts as a core part of their job.
Which leaves us with one final and really crucial question. The technology is moving forward at an absolutely incredible pace. But this whole journey shows us that the real race isn't about processing power or sensor range. It's about whether we, as a society, can keep up. Will our laws and our ethics evolve as fast as our cars?